No one noticed it at first. A small, almost invisible drop on the polished hardwood floor, easily dismissed as a spill, a shadow, or a reflection. But to those trained to read the language of a crime scene, it was a whisper that spoke louder than any testimony. The Petersons were the kind of family everyone trusted. Married for 15 years, 2 children, a neatly kept home, and a reputation for normalcy that hid nothing, or so it seemed. That Tuesday evening, their 11-year-old daughter, Emily, vanished while playing in the backyard. Her mother, Clara Peterson, reported her missing with a steady voice, almost rehearsed. "I was inside making dinner. I turned around, and she was gone." The backyard offered no clues. No signs of forced entry, no footprints other than the family's, nothing out of place, except the single drop on the kitchen floor. Red, partially dried, its trajectory suggested movement. Something or someone had passed through the house. The floor held a story the family was unaware of or unwilling to tell. Inside the home, more evidence quietly contradicted the official account. A faint smear on the edge of a kitchen chair contained a sticky, metallic residue. Fingerprints on the sliding door leading to the backyard were smudged, directionally telling of movement inconsistent with a child simply wandering off. Neighbors reported nothing unusual. No voices, no cars, no strangers. Yet the evidence painted a different picture. Emily had not left of her own accord. Small details, often overlooked, formed a chain of events. One drop, one smear, one fingerprint at a time. The timeline of Clara's evening was precise, almost unnervingly so. Chopping vegetables, sautéing meat, washing dishes. She claimed to glance at the backyard several times. But gaps existed. 2 minutes unaccounted for, a brief window invisible to others, yet enough to change everything. In forensic investigation, minutes can be decisive. The second drop appeared near the staircase. Its size and placement suggested Emily had been carried, not walking. A faint resistance, implied by movement patterns on the floor, told of struggle. The trail mapped a sequence. Kitchen threshold, living room, staircase, landing. The home itself had silently recorded the events. Forensic testing would later confirm the substance of the first drop, identifying traces that would not have belonged to a child. The fingerprints, once enhanced under UV light, revealed smudges that contradicted the mother's account. Every fiber, every stain, every overlooked detail was evidence waiting to speak. The home, quiet and orderly, betrayed subtle inconsistencies. The polished floors, the carefully cleaned surfaces, the neutral environment, all preserved tiny clues. Those who understood the science behind blood, fibers, and fingerprints could read a narrative invisible to the untrained eye. Outside, speculation ran rampant. Neighbors whispered theories of wandering off or accidental disappearance. But the truth resided not in conjecture, nor in assumptions, it lay in the physical traces left behind. The house had recorded its story in its own language, waiting for someone to interpret it. By nightfall, a pattern had emerged. A sequence of movement, smudges, and biological evidence pointed toward a chilling possibility. A disappearance was rarely random, and the home itself was beginning to speak, in whispers only visible under scrutiny. And then, a single finding would shift the entire investigation. One detail, initially overlooked, that had the power to rewrite the story the family had presented. The evidence was quiet but insistent. Every drop, every fingerprint, every smear had a story. And one discovery would soon reveal a truth the Petersons could not deny. What would the overlooked clue uncover? Stay with Silent Evidence Files to witness the unraveling. The next morning, the forensic lab returned its first results. What had seemed like a minor detail, the smear on the kitchen chair, revealed a startling truth. The residue contained traces of iron and synthetic fibers, consistent with clothing Emily would not have worn while playing outside. It wasn't just a random spill, it was a sign of movement, of handling, of a struggle. Fingerprints enhanced under UV light told another story. One set, partially smudged, did not belong to Clara, nor to her husband, nor to Emily. The angles and pressure suggested a controlled, deliberate action, someone lifting, guiding, or placing a child against resistance. The small drops on the hardwood, once mapped, formed a pattern too precise to be accidental. Each drop aligned with a trajectory from the kitchen to the staircase. It indicated carrying rather than running or wandering, movement slowed by resistance. Each piece of evidence fit like puzzle pieces into a picture that grew darker with every analysis. The timeline gaps now mattered. The 2 unaccounted for minutes, once insignificant, suddenly became pivotal. During that brief interval, Emily had been moved through the home. The fibers from the smear on the chair matched fibers found on the staircase landing, confirming the child had touched multiple surfaces while being carried. The physical traces refused to lie. Digital evidence added its own layer. Clara's phone records showed a series of deleted images and a missing call log during that same 2-minute window. Nothing pointed to an intruder, no outside threat, no forced entry. The digital absence reinforced the physical evidence. The risk had come from within the home. The most damning revelation came when the lab completed DNA testing. One tiny trace, almost invisible, taken from the kitchen floor smear, matched Emily's DNA, but not alone. Mixed with it was another profile, Clara's. The combination, consistent with close contact under stress, contradicted the mother's claim that she had been inside cooking while Emily wandered. Alone. Each piece of evidence told a single, undeniable story. Emily had been handled, moved, and restrained inside the house. There was no stranger, no accident. The family narrative that everyone had believed, the vanished while playing story, was unraveling thread by thread. Neighbors who had whispered of wandering children were now silent. Friends who had assumed the Petersons' perfect image would shield them were forced to reconsider. The forensic record did not care for appearances. It spoke clearly, the evidence pointed inward. Yet, within the walls of the home, Clara remained composed. To an outsider, her demeanor could still seem calm, even maternal. But the science did not lie. Blood trajectory, fibers, smears, fingerprints, and DNA all converged to paint a singular, grim conclusion. This was no random disappearance. This was deliberate, controlled, and internal. In the end, the combination of physical evidence and digital gaps formed a story that words alone could never capture. The child's path through the house was traced by science itself, each drop, each fiber, each smear marking the route from safety to danger. The case that had begun with whispers and assumptions now had a voice. And that voice left no room for doubt. The home had recorded every movement, every struggle, every hidden act. The evidence had spoken, revealing a truth no one wanted to face. What happens when the very people meant to protect become the ones who harm? Subscribe to Silent Evidence Files and uncover more cases where evidence refuses to stay silent.